Today we're going to be revisiting Dark Souls 1. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a while since I've seen this character creation screen. When it comes to naming our character on this channel, it's obvious what we have to name it. Go ahead and make it a male. For the class, I always go with Bandit. Considering that our character's name is literally Buff Asian Boy, we need to pick the one with the highest strength. The gift, I mean, you have to pick Master Key. Unless you're going with Thief, you have to pick Master Key. Unless it's like your first playthrough, in which case I'd probably recommend going like, I don't know, maybe Tiny Beings Ring, maybe. I honestly don't know what would be good for a first playthrough. I did Black Fire Bombs because I thought that they would regenerate over the course of the game, but little did I know after I used them like on the Asylum Demon, that was it. For the face, we definitely want to go with one that looks, you know, a bit more like me. Oh, that is literally perfect. Do they have any anime hair? The hair in DS2 was literally perfect because in my original playthrough of this game, we actually didn't create the whole Buff Asian Boy character until Dark Souls 2. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we really have anything. The most we can maybe do is what? Like the wild hairstyle? I guess we'll go wild because like Buff Asian Boy with like super short hair. I mean, maybe, you know what? Maybe in the canon, right? In this game, he had short hair because like he's like a new Hollow, and then before DS2, you know, because obviously there's like a huge amount of time between DS1 and DS2. He grew out his hair, he got the spikes going, so you know what? In DS1 for the canon, we'll go with short. And then they have two different kinds of reds. They have dark red, but I believe, yeah, red looks a bit better for what we're going for. Obviously, most of the time we're going to be wearing a helmet, but in terms of the canon, these things matter. Okay, to start the game with this character, yeah, let's get into it, dude. I am so excited to do this. Believe it or not, for the OGs of the channel, it's been almost an entire year since we played Dark Souls 1 for the first time. I was gonna try to wait until the 1 year mark exactly, but I have a couple things planned, so I already knew for a fact that waiting until October with other things and series that I had planned for the channel just wouldn't have worked out. And here we are in the Northern Undead Asylum. Man, dude, I am getting like blasts from the past. It's definitely not nostalgia. It hasn't been long enough for this game to be nostalgic for me. Has it been though? I mean, I know it's only been a year, but like, so much has happened to this channel since I started. Believe it or not, when I first started making like those Dark Souls series a year ago, we were only at like, what, 500, 300 subscribers, somewhere in there? So many things have happened since then, and you know, even though it's only been a year, when I look back at that time for the channel, it was completely different. Lighting the first bonfire, oh gosh, it always feels so good. I'll never forget the first time that I opened these doors and I saw that dude jump down. I got lucky, okay? I would have got squashed, but I'm just a very observant person, and I happened to see this door open over here, and I was like, oh, okay, we just run through the door, and that's that. I always come through here and light up all these bonfires. I mean, it's probably not necessary, right? Because, I mean, normally in my playthroughs, I don't really even end up coming back here anyways, unless I'm going for, like, all bosses where I kill the Stray Demon. You better start running, boy. I'm coming for that ass. Got my battle axe equipped. You ain't getting away from me. I don't think so. You want to try to shoot me? Now, one unfortunate thing with going with this class is that once you put on all your gear, you do end up fat rolling. I believe I just have to, no, I have to take off even more than that. Maybe I gotta take off the leggings too. Oh, okay, there we go. Unfortunately, you guys are gonna have to stare at my undead, hollow little fleshy legs, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do to keep the equip load low. I feel like such a noob going back and watching like my old Dark Souls videos. I literally spent more than half of my original playthrough fat rolling. Well, it wasn't necessarily fat rolling, but it was like the mid roll, whatever you want to call it. It still feels like a fat roll. If you're doing anything besides like the absolute lightest roll or fastest roll in Dark Souls, it's just you're doing it wrong. Well, I can't say wrong because I am a believer that there is really no wrong way to play these games, but like, come on, if you're not having the fastest roll possible, you're gonna be struggling. Actually, now that I think of it, you know, you probably could get through most of the base game just doing like a mid roll, maybe even a fat roll if you're good enough, but once you get to the DLC with like Manus and Artorias, it's possible, but like, oh gosh. Normally I wouldn't go out of my way to kill these enemies, but I mean, hey, I'm trying to get as many souls as possible right now just so I can level myself up and have more than enough souls to work with. Little trick here for the newbies. Before you go through this fog wall, always double hand whatever weapon you have in your right hand because then you can drop down, do the whole shank in the head attack, and you do so much damage. I'll never forget the first time that I beat the Asylum Demon. I caught it on video and everything, man. I was so excited. Oh boy, if only I had any idea what this series had in store for me. Once we open these doors, the adventure truly begins. It's honestly quite humbling going back and watching my old Dark Souls videos and watching like my first DS1 playthrough where I beat things like Asylum Demon and Gaping Dragon, and I was just losing my mind at those like huge accomplishments, or what were huge accomplishments at the time. And then later on, I go on to beat some of the hardest in the series like Nameless King in DS3 and Millennia in Elden Ring. I mean, I definitely wouldn't have been able to do that at the time of me starting Dark Dark Souls 1, because man, I was terrible. But I mean, hey, that's the charm of the series. You start out bad and then you gotta get good. Now, I may or may not die here, because usually what I do every time that I start a DS1 playthrough is I run into the graveyard and I go for a death run immediately. I get all of the loot back here. My main goal is to pick up the Zweihander, because that is the weapon that we're going to be maining for a while. My goal would be to get like a Black Knight Greatsword if RNG is in our favor, but that's the thing. You really got to rely on RNG, but usually I flip-flop between like the Zweihander and the Claymore. I'm not exactly sure which one we're going to go with yet, because obviously when you do the Claymore, you want to do a bit more of a quality build where you're like a bit of strength and a bit of dex, so I'm not exactly sure yet. All I know is I got everything that I needed. I'm probably going to die, and that's okay. You know, like I said, this is a death run. When you come into the cemetery, you can't expect much else. Now, in order to use this Zweihander, we're going to need 24 strength and 10 dex at least. Well, that's the two-handed. We could just go with like 16 strength, which I kind of made a mistake because I put all my levels into Vitality, so now I'm not able to use the Zweihander just yet. That's okay, though. I typically tend to prefer to just stick with the Battle Axe for the early game anyway, because I want to wait until we can get Havel's Ring, so then we're able to have a higher equip load. With DS1 strength builds, like, Havel's Ring is almost a necessity. No matter how many times I play this game, these guys will never not be annoying. These dudes that just, like, throw the firebombs at you, like, why are you here? Why are you just sitting up here throwing firebombs? Have these dudes literally just been standing here for, like, years, decades, just waiting for me to come along with their firebombs primed? I know that there's a ring below me that I could have jumped across for to grab off the brick. I'll probably go back and get it. I mean, I'm not really trying to do like a 100% completion on this playthrough. I'm literally just grabbing like the bare necessities, and that's not a ring that I really need anyway. Here we are at the Undead Burg. Funnily enough, in my original series, I believe it took us like an entire 2 or 3 videos to get to the Undead Burg. Wow, look at that. I had the battle axe as my like starting equipment, and then I picked up another one from this guy here. Backstab! There we go. My backstab game is on point. That is like essential in this game. Again, there's gonna be a lot of areas in this game where there's probably gonna be people like, oh, you missed this area, you could have went there, you could have got this. Like, there's a lot that I'm probably even gonna be running past here in the opening areas, where some people might normally be like, oh, that's a lot of loot or souls that you just missed. But honestly, I beat this game like dozens of times at this point, even though it's only been a year. Like, I played this game so many times, so I know what I do and don't need. The more and more that I replay Dark Souls 1, I'm always just reminded of how masterful these first couple opening areas are. Like, it really does a great job at introducing you to the game and the mechanics. The thing about Dark Souls 1 is the difficulty curve is so meticulously crafted. Like, through each area that you go to, the difficulty gradually increases until like the ultimate climax point in like Anor Londo, where from that point on, the difficulty doesn't really climb anymore. If anything, I'd say it almost falls after that point. I mean, like, when it comes to the enemies that you encounter in the world, sure, they get a little bit more difficult. But in my humble opinion, if you can beat Anor Londo and Ornstein and Smo, you can beat the rest of DS1. This guy hiding back here, I'm not gonna lie, he scared the crap out of me the first time that I encountered it. Then there's this dude back here. I always come back here and pick up the residence key, so then I can go and pick up, like, the lightning stuff or whatever, so then I can use it on the Taurus demon, just so I can take him down a little bit faster. One thing some of you may notice throughout this playthrough is that I don't go with like the typical strategies. Like, some of the strategies that I use or some of the things that I do may seem different or just, you know, not what most of the quote-unquote professionals do in this game, and that's because I never really used any guides whenever I was playing this game. I just kind of formed my own strategies over time, kind of figured out what works for me, and as many of the more experienced players in the Souls community can attest to, you know, that is, in my humble opinion, like the most pure way to play this game. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's the objectively best way to play, because, you know, that's subjective to each person. I know not everybody has like hundreds and hundreds of hours to dedicate to each Dark Souls game, you know, in order to play them completely blind. But I will say, if you have the time to spare and if you're willing to learn the game, I will always say, if you want like the best pure experience with Dark Souls, going in like completely blind is the best way to do that. But if you don't care, and if you're just trying to play and experience the game, there's nothing wrong with using guides, man. Use the Zweihander and Drake Swords all you want. As long as you're having fun, that's what counts. There's a lot of elitist and toxicity in the Souls community, and that's kind of what led to me like kind of disconnecting from that community over time, just because it was so annoying. Dealing with people trying to start arguments in every single casual conversation is just never fun. So over time, I've kind of just learned, hey, there's stinkers in every community. It's your choice to interact or not to interact with it. So all I can do is, you know, ignore it the best that I can, because I still do love engaging with this community and these games. It's sort of similar to Call of Duty. I love Call of Duty. I've loved that series for like, oh my gosh, almost going on 2 decades now. But there's definitely some stinkers in that community, to say the very least. I love how slow and methodical the combat in DS1 is. Like, you know, Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring, they're great games and all, but in my opinion, those are just like dodging simulators. Whereas in Dark Souls 1, everything feels so like meticulously handcrafted. All of the combat encounters feel like somebody was like truly designing each and every single move and frame of animation. It's a mixture of dodging, of blocking, of knowing when to attack, when to back up. You're doing everything in your power to manage that little stamina bar up there, and I absolutely love that about Dark Souls 1 and Demon Souls. That's why those two are my two most favorite Souls games. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to dunk on DS3 or Elden Ring. Those are both absolutely fantastic games, and I love them both. But there's just something so pure about the engagements in this game, and just they feel so, I don't know, they just flow together. It's like a dance of death. I love it. Everybody has their opinions, and mine just is that Dark Souls 1 and Demon Souls are my two absolutely most favorite Souls games. It's always kind of hard for me to rank them, but I would say that Dark Souls 3 probably would be like a close third, just because, I mean, the bosses in that game and the way that, like, you know, the dodging simulator mechanics were designed in that game, it all does flow together very, very well in that game. It is a beautiful dodging dance of death. This is usually my strategy here. You just put on the gold pine resin, hope that, you gotta hope that he doesn't jump up before you get down, which it seems like he might. Yeah, I totally missed it. This fight here is sometimes, it can be a little finicky for me. I'm not gonna say that it's necessarily difficult, but it can be a little finicky. That mainly just comes down to, like, how tight the fighting arena is here. Like, it's that you don't have very much room to work with at all. Our resin's still going strong. You mainly want to stick to RB attacks here, because when you try to do the RT, sometimes it takes a bit too long, but just like that, Taurus Demon is down, we get some more souls, and yeah, victory achieved. I think from this point on, in terms of like leveling up, I'm probably gonna do a mix of leveling up both my strength and my vitality and endurance and all that, just because I want to get it to a point to where we can like two-hand the Zweihander. Towards the end game, I always end up just kind of two-handing my weapons and, you know, going for all the bosses like that and sticking mostly to dodging, but, you know, there is a lot of points in this game where this shield is near essential. Son, bro, in all of his glory, man, how I have missed you. Even if I don't end up completing his quest, I always end up just, you know, coming back here and talking to him and just getting things started just in case I change my mind. All right, now we're gonna go back to that one bonfire and activate this shortcut, and, you know, I was gonna try not to get burned by the dragon, but it seems to happen to me every single time. Go ahead and kick the ladder down, and I'm gonna roll down this way because I always forget that in this game, you can't slide down the ladders. If you want to go down the ladders, you have to do it very slowly, one ladder step at a time. I have one humanity on me. I'm not gonna reverse my hollowing just yet. I'm gonna wait until we get to the Undead Parish and then save that for the Bell Gargoyles fight, just so that we can summon into lair. We've also picked up a decent amount of souls, so I'm gonna go ahead and just pop all of these, then we can get the levels going, because I do want to be able to use the Zweihander as soon as possible, because that thing, I mean, it makes absolute pancakes out of everything that you encounter in this game. As I said before, we're gonna need 24 strength and 10 dex, so I only have to put, like, what, yeah, one more level into dex, and then strength, I could just put it at 16, and then we'd be able to use it already. I don't know if I want to spread my stats out like that. Maybe we'll go 16 on strength, just so we can at least use it for now, and then we'll keep leveling up vitality and endurance. I kind of want to get it to a point of where, like, vitality and endurance by the end game are both kind of hovering around like 25 to 30, and then get strength and dex where we need it. I also got to remember that using the Zweihander won't exactly be the most viable thing in the world until we get Havel's Ring anyway, so I have a while to go yet. So leveling up vitality and endurance is definitely quite a hefty priority. But anyways, that's where we're going to wrap things up for this episode. I hope you guys are looking forward to the series. I am so very excited to be revisiting this game. Anyway, as always, a massive shout out, thank you to all the patrons and channel members. Thank you to all of you in the low baller tier, and even bigger shout out, thank you to all of you in the big baller tier, Middle Last King, and Daddy Manny, and the biggest shout out, thank you all to all of you in the G tier, Ron and Vengeance, and Little Cheese Girl. Thank you guys so much. You guys are literal legends. I love you. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.